to another lesson of the Logos and Letters. My name is Liam, and today we have an important lesson. We're going to sort of tie together everything that we've learned about naming qualities and quality naming. You may have noticed that quite a few episodes or lessons, however which way you want to describe them, have been named after the forming of paronyms. And that's important. It's important motif that's followed through. But this lesson really it goes back all the way to the start of this chapter and relates to other things too. There's not many points to make. There's probably about 3 important points to make, but they're very important points, I think. Very, very important points. So I'm actually going to start from here, sort of where we left off. We covered, where's that sentence start? Here. Okay, we're going to start from about here, and then we're going to go to here, I reckon. This whole block, and you look at it, is you can't really stop halfway through, so we're going to go through all of that. So without further ado, επένιον δε διατομε καίσταιταις ποιοταίσιν ονομάτα ουκ εντέχεtai παρανούμος απαutον legestai. Right, so I think we covered this in the last lesson. It's all a blur to me, but in most cases, of course, in most cases, we have 2 things. We have names, onomata, that actually are lying around for us to use for the qualities, kaistaitais boyoteisen, but we also have cases wherein there is no names lying about for the qualities. All right, that can be accepted or received or allowed to be used, and the paronyms said from them, right? So sometimes we have names like grammarian, okay, that lie about, grammarian, librarian, so on, and they can be used, and the paronyms said about them. However, sometimes there's not. All right, so hoion dromikos e pyktikos ho katadunamin physikan legomenos. So he's making a subtle point here. I think we also covered that the runner, the hodromikos pyktikos, or the boxer, is named according to a physical ability, natural gift, giftedness, even genius, sometimes we would say. Genius more so for the science, and that's an important point that I just made then. All right, so apudemias tetos parnumos legetai. However, we don't say that they're based on like a paronym from a quality. Okay, this is really the first important point that I want to address thoroughly here. We do not say that some. Okay, let's just take this for example. There's that artwork of the boxers. I'm sure you know the one I'm talking about here. So if you're a really gifted puncher, you can punch really hard, and not just hard, but you can punch really well, which means that, you know, when you throw a hook, you're going to turn your wrist and your elbow over, and you're going to pivot on that. Your feet work with your hands, and your spatial distancing is excellent. You can judge distances really well. You don't miss too many punches. People will be surprised how often they miss if a person just moves their head a little bit. So if you're naturally good at that, at boxing, without having to study the science of boxing and get coaching and stuff, you're just naturally good. You know how to throw the punch. You can feel how to throw the punch. You know, start with your toes, twist through your hips, throw that, and punch through the face or whatever you're trying to punch. Don't just punch to it, punch through it. So if you can naturally intuit that and hit hard, you got long limbs, strong bones. Doesn't really matter the size of the length of your arms and hands and things like that, because so many boxers have had so many different dimensions to them. So long as they're strong bones and not brittle, you know, we call you a boxer. That's not a paronym. That's the first point, right? It's not a paronym. Like, if you study the science of boxing, that's a then we call you then when we call you a boxer, that's a paronym. I know that's strange, but if it's just from natural ability alone, raw ability to do something, it's not a paronym. All right. That's the point he's getting to. Now let's continue on, just so that we can make that a little bit clearer, because I think he's about to speak to it. So, ugar kaitai onomatatais dunamesi, right? For there are no names lying about, right? There are no names lying about according to the abilities. Kath dunamesi kathas utoi poyo legontai, right? So, and according to these that we're speaking about, which we are speaking about, boyoi legontai, right? These are qualified things. This is a second important point that's very related to the first. We keep speaking about poyoi and poyotes throughout this whole thing, and now we get to the point where we get to distinguish between the two, right? So the first one, poyotes, which is the supreme genus of this, is quality, right? We all know that it's quality. Let me see if I can just. All right, so this is the supreme genus. Okay, can I start another box over here? Oh no, it didn't like that at all. So it's quality. That's the supreme genus there. I've just sacrificed the well-being of this document to produce one word. But boyoi is the what sortish. It's the qualified thing. Okay, so it did, but then it disappeared. So, for example, what sort of man is that? A grammarian, right? It's a boyoi. It's a qualified thing. What sort of page color is it? Cream, all right? Boyoi. Color is a quality. Boyoi is the what sort. It's the qualified. And most people in listening to this know what qualified means. Okay, so I don't need to keep harping on about that. Now it's just come back. All right, so there's a difference there. And if you're named after a natural ability that you have, or you name someone after a natural ability that they have, then that's qualifying the person. That's not speaking to a paronym, because a paronym is formed by a quality. Okay, now that is a very subtle distinction, in a certain sense, and that's okay. There are subtle distinctions to be made now and then, but it's an important one. Okay, so let's continue on. Hospertais epistemais kathas butikoi palaistrikoi kata diathesin legontai. Here we go. Right, here is his clarification here. So let me highlight this because it's important. All right. Just so, according to the sciences, such as according to boxing, the science of boxing, the science of palaistrikoi, which is like the boxers, and palaistrikoi is the wrestlers. Why are they called that? Because they went to the palaistra, all right, which is the wrestling school. Palaistra is the wrestling school, and they learnt the science of wrestling. Someone can be naturally gifted at wrestling. Okay, we've got those artworks there. Where are those artworks of the people wrestling? Whenever you need them, you can't see them. Right here, right? So imagine who's in the more dominant position. I'm gonna say the brunette hair kid's in the more dominant position. Even though he's inside, if he knows how to, if he knows any judo, he can hook that leg, twist on his hip. I don't know. It's pretty even, but I'm gonna say the brunette hair kid has the body lock there, and he's got a strong base. So let's say this kid knows the science. He's a palaistrikoi. He goes to a wrestling coach, and this kid, doesn't have the money for a wrestling coach. He might just have older brothers that he wrestles with, right? And he's got a natural ability to wrestle and understand his body and where it is. So he can be called a wrestler, right? He knows the science of wrestling. He listens very well to his coach, and he understands the concepts. And this boy, he doesn't understand the science of it. So he's named after his is a paronym. All right, he's a wrestler. It's a paronym. It's a science of wrestling that it's named after. He's a palaistrikoi because he goes to the palaistra and he learns the science of wrestling. He does not have the science of wrestling. He just has the natural ability for wrestling, right? And some personal experience too. So there is the subtle distinction played out for you, okay? Right? And this qualifies us in a way, of course. So that's boyoi. Right? So palaistrikai is the science of wrestling. Buktige is the science of boxing. Boyoi da apo tuton parnumos hoi dia kaimenoi legontai. Hoi dia kaimenoi, the disposed, right? The inclined. Those who are inclined to boxing or to sprinting or to what's another one that people can be naturally good at? Gymnastics. Someone can be naturally good at dancing. Okay, they are disposed to it. All right, and but these are qualified. They're qualified. However, if someone's disposed to it and knows the science, they have a paronym, paronyms. Right, they are paronymously named after it. If you have the science of that particular thing, if you have the science of dancing, you're a dancer. I think I've made that point clear, so I'm going to move on now. Right, the point hinges on the understanding of, just before I move on, the point hinges on the understanding of, do you have the science? Okay, is the science there in that person or not? If it's just natural ability, then it's not a paronym. If it's science, then it is a paronym. All right, let's continue on. Aniote dekai onomatos kaimenu u legatai parnumos to katautein poyon legomenon. So right, we say a qualified thing. According to each of those, where there is no, it's not said as a paronym, right? So he's just going over that, but he's going to give an example, right? So there are other things too. Hoyon apo des aretes, from the virtues, or the excellence, ho spudaios, right? The excellent man, ho spudaios, right? So this is an example where there is no paronym that lies around for something that we're speaking about, such as aretes, which is like personal excellence, and we say hospudaios. Spudaios has a few synonymous translations with each other, but a person with integrity is really the sense at which it captures. Person with integrity, a person with who's just an excellent person, who's very virtuous, right? Spudaios isn't related to aretes, as you can tell, etymologically or even by its sound or its the way it's written. So we can see how this is another case where there's no paronym lying about for this word, for this quality that you can see in people, right? Excellence, spudaios. Toigar aretein ekain spudaios legatai. So he has excellence, he has virtue. Aretein can mean like manliness too, but is spoken of as spudaios, right? The person with integrity. Alou parnumos apotes aretes, right? So, but this is not a paronym from excellence. Ukepi polon de ton toyuton estin. So, on account of this, these things, we can come up with a lot of different examples of this, right? But let's just continue on. Poya toinun legatai ta parnumos apoton ai reimenon poyo teeton legomena he opusun alos apauton, right? So this is we've actually seen this exact phrase or almost exact phrase before, or any other way from them. So he names two ways that we can get names for qualities, and he says it pretty Simply, ta legomena. Look how far away these two words are separated. The article is there, right? Ta, and legomena is all the way down there. Paronyms apoton airemenon boyo teton, right? So paronyms are from the aforementioned qualities, we say, or any other way. And he's addressed the any other way. So sometimes there just isn't a name lying about, and sometimes people are named after the natural ability without the science. So there's a limitation of language or a convention of language which doesn't match up, and B, there is a distinction between someone who is gifted in something and someone who is like scientifically aware of it, who knows the ins and outs and the lessons to be learned. Okay, so he's made that distinction about how we name. All right, you can't call everything a paronym just because it sounds like a paronym. All right, you can't call someone who is really, really good a boxer, because they're really, really good at boxing, if they know nothing about boxing and think it's a paronym. All right, there's a clear distinction. There's a rule of logic going through it all. Okay, gonna probably leave it there because that's a lot. There's a lot to cover, but you can see how those three main points came up. All right, let me see if I've got another image of someone mastering something, someone with the science of something. This boy, for example, right? He has the science of playing this recorder flute. I don't know what it is. Not very good with those woodwind instruments. There is a science of it, so you can call him a flutist if that is a flute, or if it's a recorder. I don't know what you call him, a recordist. And yeah, so he has the science of it. And then that's a paronym. Flutist from someone who plays the flute, or a musician, right? He has the science of music. He knows the notes. You can call him a musician, right? If this man lives in the outback, or he does overland work, he's a bushman, and he can track water sources really, really well, like Mr. Stewart, who found the overland trail in Australia, from South Australia all the way to the mangroves of the Northern Territory. And he can track water. He knows how to read the land and all that. He has this. You could just say he has a science of navigation. You can call him a navigator. But if he just has a good intuition about how to go about the land, but doesn't know any science about it, you wouldn't call him that, right? If he has a natural robustness to endure the Australian outback with its untold millions of bugs and venomous creatures, and sparse amounts of fresh drinking water, then he's gifted. He's definitely gifted with a lot of different blessings. However, the paronym can't be formed. All right, I think I've very thoroughly covered this. Why is this important? Well, it's not the critical make or break. It's important only for being able to draw a line, being able to say where one thing ends and when another doesn't, and also to answer that potential question that could happen in the future. Someone could, in a comment section, go, hey, why didn't we ever talk about the difference between someone who's just gifted and someone who actually knows the science of it? All right, so I guess this lesson obviously isn't going to change anybody's life. Maybe it will change how you perceive people and how you use names from henceforth. But it's to address future questions, and it's so that we hone our speech just a little bit more. And you know what? Every single lesson that we do, even if you don't find it life-changing, hones your logic skills a little bit more and helps you with your Greek. If you're interested in learning Greek, every little bit helps, right? So if you exercise your mind in one thing, the next thing is a little bit easier to understand, so long as it's in the same area of knowledge. Okay, so there are many takeaways to appreciate here, even if none of them are the flashy, stunning, interesting, life-altering things that we all hope for all the time. So with that, I'll say, si semper fortis in opere tuo. My name is Liam, and I'll see you next time.